I just wanted to begin by thanking those of you who registered for this workshop. Maybe some of you couldn't make it to the live event, but if you're watching the recording after, I appreciate you. Thank you. My name is Alyssa. As I mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of Nomad Creative. And for those who haven't had a chance to meet or attend any of my webinars in the past, I wanted to share a little bit about myself. So I've been working in the creative industry since 2011. And I started off as a freelance graphic designer myself. I worked for several different companies and then eventually built Nomad Creative in 2018 as a means to combine my passion for design and travel. And so Nomad Creative is a remote creative agency that bridges the gap between traditional agencies and freelancers. We provide teams of specialized remote creators to businesses locally and globally, allowing us to work from anywhere and for anyone, which is pretty cool. When I personally moved to the Quinte West area, I actually saw an opportunity to help local businesses digitize their brands and refine their image to stand out in the market. And of course, social media has a lot to do with that, right? I'm seeing some of your responses coming in here, feeling motivated, looking forward to learning. Great, thanks guys for sharing. So at Nomad Creative, we work on projects in marketing, branding, social media, and everything in between. And since 2018, have grown our team to over 50 creatives across all disciplines. We've also had the opportunity to work with some major brands such as David's Tea, the Aldo Group, Campbell's Canada, and many more. And though we have had the opportunity to work with these global names, our primary focus is really on branding and social media for small to mid-sized businesses, which is why the case study we will be reviewing together today is of a local business that I think many of you will resonate with, or at least I hope so. And they're a brand new business. So this strategy is fresh. And hopefully this will inspire you guys for your businesses. And so before we dive in, let me know a little bit about your role. If I can share any ideas or advice related specifically to you, your role, or your business, that would be great. So just type it in the chat over here, whether you're, an entrepreneur, maybe you're a freelancer, a social media specialist, let me know in the chat. A coworker of a new plumbing company. Cool. What company? Can you share? Holistic nutritionist. Awesome. Love that. Quinte Plumbing. Cool, Sarah. Thanks. Launching a new brand. Ooh, that's fun. So this is perfect for you, Jen. Amazing. Owner of a campground. Interesting. Okay. So we have a lot of different industries here, which is great. And so, some things that we're going to talk about may resonate directly with you, and others may just inspire you to think in different ways about your business, right? A nonprofit, co-owner of a food business. Cool. Duncan Contractors. Amazing. Thank you everyone for sharing. Thanks, Brad. Thanks, Juliana. Okie dokes. So going into the agenda, today I'm going to walk you through the brand and mention for this workshop, then take you through the full social media strategy, giving you opportunities to answer some questions for your own business. And then I will conclude with a quick summary and any questions that you may have specifically for your brand. Okay, so like I said, let me start off by summarizing the business whose case study we will be using so that you can understand the driving factors of what the social media strategy are. And like I said, we're using this as an example to really kind of guide you to help think in these creative ways, right? Sometimes when you're strategizing for your own brand, it's easy to get stuck. So by seeing an actual example might help you to think of ideas, right? Instead of just providing a template and saying like, you should do X, Y, and Z, I figure having a real case study would be best. So MP Estates is one of Nomad Creative's most recent branding and social media clients. The founder, Katie, is a certified event planner, but is also pursuing a career in the military. She has always dreamed about owning and operating her own venue, and something that not only complements her event planning business, but also to create an accessible space for locals and really wants them to love and enjoy this space as opposed to, let's say, just like tourists or out of towners. Her focus is very much on the local community. And so you see one of Katie's struggles as an event planner before she had decided to open up this space was to find a space that was, one, available, everything's always booked up. 2, affordable, prices are just being jacked up because of the popularity of the area that's been increasing, right? And 3, accessibility. So instead of sitting back and praying for someone to open up a space nearby that ticked all of those boxes, she decided to do it herself. She purchased an old church just 15 minutes from Napanee in northern Marysville, with easy access to Prince Edward County and surrounding areas in Quinte West. And in opening this new business, it was important for her to connect with locals, like I mentioned, and not just tourists. So offering them a beautiful space to hold their events, whether they're personal or business. And Katie really wanted to focus on catering each experience to the client. So tying in her expertise as an event planner to her new role as business owner, as she felt that availability and care was really absent from those more popular and always booked venues nearby. And so the way my team and I learned this information was through what we call a brand discovery call. So it's an hour call that we hold between Nomad Creative's team and the client. And we ask questions about what's working, what's not working with the brand, what they like, what they don't like. We talk about competitors, target audience, voice, messaging, and so much more. And so these are all questions that you should be asking yourself about your business before diving into a strategy. So just think about these things, and we'll touch upon some of them. But that brand discovery call is really what allows us as an agency to understand our client and how to build out the strategy. So that's the first few steps that we need to look at. With that said, Nomad Creative pulled all of those ideas together from that brand discovery call in a clear and succinct way, defining the brand's mission, vision, values, and personality. This is something I'll give you an opportunity to think about for your own brand shortly, but why don't I read through these for MP Estates specifically? So with MP Estates, our mission is to provide a unique and luxurious event space for any occasion, while using our expertise in event planning to bring every last detail of our client's vision to life. Our vision is to be the go-to event space in Napanee and its surrounding areas, where luxury and affordability meet and cherished memories are made. We value exceptional service, elegance, innovation, and genuine connections. And for anyone who may have seen my last webinar through the Small Business Center called More Than Just the Logo, I walked through the 12 brand archetypes, which the one in mention here is the magician, right? So you can either Google, what the 12 brand archetypes, but these are basically like high level 12 different personalities that your brand could embody. And so we felt that the magician was best suited for MP Estates. The magician makes dreams come true, is a visionary, is charismatic, inspirational, and an innovator. And so all of that really comes through here in the tone, intended effect, and positioning. I won't read through this, but upscale, elegant, stress-free, flexible, and affordable are some of those key words that really summarize the brand's intentions. And it's also important to ensure that the brand remains upbeat, honest, and attentive when communicating with clients and followers for the sake of social media. I'll give you a moment to observe this mood board to let all of that information sink in and allow the ideas to come to life in a visual fashion, right? So we're seeing a neutral color palette with pops of black and gold, a whimsical cursive font, some sweet iconography. There's also a lot of movement and emotion in the photos. Overall, the vibe is very elegant, right? So I want you to think about these 4 core elements for your business. If you guys have the worksheet from this workshop, you could print it out or fill it on your computer. If not, just write it in point form, right? Mission, vision, values, personality. It's pretty straightforward. If you're not clear on these elements, this is something that you should definitely define before you get started on your own social media strategy. And then, of course, revisit again after this workshop. So I'll give you a quick second to take any notes in case the last couple of slides inspired you. But take that time, go back and really do it more thoroughly. And then we'll move on to the next section in just a second. Alexia wrote, I've been following them on Instagram. Looks like a gorgeous venue. Yeah, it's super fun. You could see the construction journey of MP Estates. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to look at MP Estates social media strategy as an example to guide and inspire you to make your own strategy for your business. Okay. So diving into the strategy, I will review the role of social media, giving you an overview of some main platforms, probably nothing you've not seen before. Show you how to audit your own account using what is called a SWOT analysis, show you what to look for when analyzing competitors, and then also provide you with a template to build and define content pillars for your brand. So the role of social media, there's a few different things that encompass it, right? Brand awareness, humanize your brand, consideration and conversion, and then to create a community. So brand awareness is really about getting your name out there. Everyone's on social media. It's a key channel. There's a huge, very large audience, right? And so we want to utilize that to be able to build brand awareness, get your name out there, let people know who you are so that they can recognize you. Second is to humanize your brand. So showcasing your brand's personality through lots of content avenue really makes the brand more relatable. And people are definitely more likely to purchase from a brand that they relate to, right? It comes down to people trusting other people. And honestly, people just value transparency, right? If you're relatable, if you're honest, if you're transparent, people will gravitate towards you, which is why a lot of brands that have, causes behind them do really well. Looking at consideration and conversion, this is about getting your client to do the action you're requesting. So whether that be purchasing something, signing up to a newsletter, visiting your website, people are increasingly researching brands to purchase on social media specifically. So it would be silly not to utilize this tool, right? Paid ads are always a good idea too, to get things moving, to get more eyes on the page, which is a big part of conversion in social media, especially today with the algorithm being a little more challenging with organic content. We'll talk about that later too. And lastly is to create a community. So social is one of the only two-way communication avenues you have as a brand. And so it's important to leverage that. You can speak right to consumers, to again humanize the brand and to be relatable to your followers, to really create that community online, right? You want to interact with them, you want to comment, you want to share, things like that. Creating a community will really lead to loyal customers. And so laid out here, you can see a sales or conversion funnel. It goes from broad on the left-hand side there to more specific on the right, illustrating the different ways that you can target your potential customers and cater specific messaging to them. So if you think about it, in store being the most broad, you can't really target or control who's coming into your store. But with your email, you're selecting a specific person that you're messaging, right? So it's a complete opposite end of the spectrum. But the two that we're going to be looking at today are organic and paid content, which falls somewhat in the middle. Organic falls more broadly on the spectrum, getting lots of different eyes on the page because it could be viewed by anyone, right? Any organic content that you put out, kind of like in store, but online, anyone can really land on your page and see it. And then with paid, we can narrow that down. So targeting specific audiences through location, demographic, and more, driving clicks directly to your website for purchase, for example, or whatever that conversion you're looking for is. And so though we'll only be diving into the Instagram strategy, two other platforms we recommended for MP Estates are Facebook and TikTok, mainly for the demographic that they reach. At the end of the day, the more platforms you're on, the better because you're targeting more people. But for some brands, you might want to focus on some versus others, right? Especially if you're like in corporate, maybe you want to focus more on LinkedIn. But if you're in fashion, then maybe TikTok is a better idea to put your focus on. So it's really case by case. Instagram is great for a younger audience. Millennials are on there. people who are full-fledged into learning about relating to brands on social. It's a great way to visually interact with photo and video of all different types of content. Facebook is still the largest social network. It owns Instagram and runs all of the ads through the Facebook ad manager platform. So, if you're on Instagram, you should be on Facebook and vice versa. It's a different demographic. Facebook is a little bit older audience, and they're most likely not on Instagram and TikTok, at least the ones that you want to reach on Facebook that you can't on the others. And then TikTok has emerged more recently, definitely more of a Gen Z demographic, and really is showing us engaging video content that just really keeps people scrolling, right? And so I want you to take this opportunity to think about which platforms make the most sense for your brand. I'm sure you're familiar with most of them. We went through 3 of them there. But here's a core list. There are some other ones, but I figured for the most part, I think everyone could relate to some of these, if not all of these. And if you're unsure or want to share a little bit about your business in the chat, I'd be happy to help 1 or 2 of you to give you, more specific direction as to what platforms you should focus on, as best as I can, given the little time and information. But think about this for your business, okay? I'll give you a second. You can take them off, circle them, take a note of them. Just think about what would be best for your brand. All right, so moving on to the audit. I want you to keep in mind that you can analyze your socials yourself. However, it's always good to get a second and third opinion when you're auditing, to get that honest and valuable feedback, right? You want to be able to apply that and not necessarily just do what you want or what you think is best, right? You're creating this account not for you. You're creating this for your followers, for your clients, for your potential clients. So that's who you have to listen to. And connecting with someone who would be in that target audience is a really, really great idea when you're doing this exercise. And so looking at MP Estate's Instagram page, my team and I noticed a few things here. So if we're looking at the graphic, there are no saved highlights with custom branded covers. So when you save different stories, you're able to have them in what we call a highlight section, which is not seen here. But you could create little icons to help categorize the type of information that you're showing. And so utilizing that is great because stories leave, right? They disappear after 24 hours. But in the highlights, you're actually able to go back and visit stories. So if you're creating this beautiful content and it's only there for 24 hours, you're not really taking advantage of it, right? Unless it's like a special or something that really only lasts that long, a lot of the information that you share in your stories could be saved for people to view at a later date and reference to learn about your business, right? We noticed that the aesthetic was pretty inconsistent. Katie is a new business. She's really just starting out. So she's kind of just posting whatever that she has and doesn't really have a strategy or rhyme or reason behind anything. Looking at the name and bio, this was done pretty well. It's clear, it's concise, the location is included. Also looking below at the contact options as well. They're easily accessible. They're all listed. You want to make sure that you list all of your contact information, your email, your website, your phone number, everything that you can. It's here for you. Let's take advantage of that, right? And then the last thing that we noticed is, especially because Katie's going through some renovations with MP Estates, well, not some, basically renovating the whole place. She's using a lot of video to show that, which is great. So video and motion content is definitely something we encourage. We'll dive into that a little bit deeper later on, but keep that in mind. So to get into a little bit more detail, we're going to perform a SWOT analysis. And so that stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And as I go through this analysis of MP Estates, think about how your brand may relate or not relate as a starting point. And then think of your own unique observations to note about your brand in each section, right? The goal is not to have a strategy at the end of this call. The goal is to get you thinking so that you can go back and eventually do this more thoroughly for yourself. So strengths. If few of these things were already mentioned. Clear bio, website logo as a profile photo, great. Imagery showcasing the church and its unique aspects. She has some inspirational wedding images, consistent use of hashtags, and using videos, all excellent. Some of the weaknesses are in the aesthetic. So even though some of the content is good and is beautiful, some aren't, right? So there's an inconsistency there. You want to make sure that it's all the same quality, and hopefully it's on the better side of the quality. At the end of the day, you don't have to have highly produced content on social media. People want something that looks like it's user generated. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars for photo shoots. That's more for like websites and campaigns and things like that. Social, you can do it yourself. Just be mindful of creating good, strong content. Just have a good camera. If you have either a social media manager or photographer, take a course, how to properly frame things. Little things like that will definitely help increase the quality of your images. Another weakness is little to no carousel posts. So carousel post is when there's multiple images per post that you can scroll through, which she is not utilizing. The captions don't encourage any engagement, so there's no real questions being asked, just kind of like short statements. And then there's low engagement on some of the feed posts and a lack of stories. So even though she's posting in the feed, the stories are not as active. So opportunities, given what I just mentioned, we can take Instagrammable images, like I spoke about, put a consistent content strategy in place, which is what we're doing, leverage reels and video content, check, adding saved highlights with custom branded covers, like I mentioned, really good to access information at a later time. And then there's room for more engagement, right? There's always room for more engagement. You want people to interact with your page. The more engagement you have, if you're public, the more likely it's actually going to show up in the discovery page. So looking at threats, finally, would be some more established wedding venues. She's not only doing weddings, she's doing other events, so whether that's wedding venues or event spaces. And then COVID-19, of course, and the uncertainty of the regulations, kind of jumping around, and also the fact that people are maybe a little bit hesitant to plan something in person. And then the unexpected delays with renovations, which hopefully won't happen because she's still under renovation, but the goal is to open up this summer. All right, I'll give you a couple of seconds to jot down any preliminary thoughts you may have based on what we just discussed regarding the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of your business. And if anyone has any burning questions about their business specifically, don't be shy. This message, this chat is for you. I'm here to help you guys. I'll give you a minute to jot down any notes. All right. Metrics and objectives. This is another thing that you can note. Your metrics and objectives, you can calculate your engagement rate yourself or use one of several calculator apps. You could just Google, Instagram engagement rate calculator, or if you're looking at another platform, same thing. Your engagement rate is people liking and commenting divided by total followers. So if you wanted to divide it yourself, but honestly, there's so many apps out there, just leave it to them. The industry average is about 1.22% across all industries for that rate. But it typically decreases the more followers that you have. So it's always good to strive or hover around 2.5. And you can see that with MP Estates, the engagement rate is 3.4%, which is actually excellent. But this being a new account with little posts, most of Katie's followers on MP Estates personally know her, and that's why the engagement rate is so good. But naturally, as your account continues to grow and you post more often, the engagement rate gets diluted a little bit, which is totally normal and nothing to be too concerned about. But this is definitely one of the higher engagement rates that we've seen. I would just say that if your rate does fall below 1%, that's when it's worth reevaluating your strategy. And so just kind of going through the other metrics here, total followers, 894, and an average of 30 engagements per post. And the average is basically taking the likes and comments from the last 6 posts for an average number. That's what that is. All right. You have this in the PDF workbook that was shared with you. So you'll have an opportunity to look at these metrics for your business and have that time to calculate. But for now, we'll just move forward and talk about audience. So since MP Estates is a newer social media account, my team at Nomad Creative and I didn't have extensive data to pull from the current audience. However, if you want to check your stats, if you have an existing page on Instagram, you can do that if you have an active business account, right? So there you have access to, for example, the percentage of males versus female followers, the most active time of day of your followers, which is typically the best time to post, what countries they're in, and so much more. So when you're targeting, you can see whether, number one, you're targeting the right area already, or if you're not, how do you change that, right? And then if your strategy is to hone in on who you currently have as a follower, then when you put ads out, you want to make sure that it matches that. And so looking at MP Estates, the target audience is between 25 and 45 years old, women and men, mostly women, 65% women. Countries, Canada, right? Because she's in the Quinte West area. Honing in the Kingston, Ottawa area is where she wanted us to look more specifically in. And then in terms of people, young and engaged couples, military employed, right? We have the Air Force Base nearby, very social and active in the community. And so we have this opportunity to attract people who feel like they've missed out on hosting or attending social events over the last 2 years and are ready to get back out there, be social, and celebrate their life milestones and special occasions. And so this is something that we really want to keep in mind when building out the strategy specifically for MP Estates. All right, so same idea here for your audience. You could get into details on your own time, but if you're able to describe your ideal target audience in just 3 words, what would they be? I just want you to get thinking about who you're talking to as we move into the next exercises. So take a second to write down just 3 words that describe your target audience. Okay. So when doing a competitive analysis, you want to look at direct competitors in your area for sure. However, depending on your business, location may not be as important. For instance, if you're an e-commerce store selling internationally out of Canada, then your competitors are far more than if you were just selling locally in retail, right? See the difference? So also, like, let's say if you're selling a product, let's say scented candles, your competitors aren't just other candle companies. They're companies that sell air fresheners, incense, oil diffusers, for instance. They all target people who are looking for a solution to make their home smell nicer. So depending on what your business is and what you do, it may not be exactly, like I said, a candle company for a candle company. It might be other companies that are trying to solve the same problem as you are. So take a look at other competitors outside of your space. And same thing with location. You know, you can look at your competitors in the location, but also it's sometimes good to look outside to see if people are doing it better elsewhere and could you get inspired by them. So I'm challenging you to think a little more broadly and outside of the box here. We'll go through a few competitive analysis here. It'll give you an idea of how you can do this yourself. You know, you don't have to do any kind of fancy layout, but really just taking note of the company name, their followers, their engagement rate, some things that you think they're doing well, and some things that you think they're not doing well, right? Because we could always learn from both. So the Knox venue is in Merrickville, Ontario, just south of Ottawa. They have 2,129 followers, 2.8% engagement rate, which is pretty good. As you can see on the right, their bio is pretty clear and concise. They do a good job of using real event images and couples to bring the event to life, which is nice. But it's very much wedding focused as opposed to events in general. And they don't have any video content or carousels, which is something that they could probably utilize. And even though some of their images are like really beautiful, it's not as consistent in the aesthetic. The next competitor here is the Meadows. So with 2,812 followers, 8.4% engagement rate, which is crazy. Location is Sterling, Ontario, just north of Belleville. And some things that we observed here as that they're really all inclusive and will host all types of weddings and ceremonies. And their highlights don't have any professional looking branded covers. So these are the highlights that I was talking about earlier. You could see right under the contact information, there's those little circles. So those are highlights that are saved from stories, and they're using imagery here, which is not a bad thing. Like, you could do that. But it's just not as strong as it could be. So maybe they need to be more specific in the type of imagery and more intentional with the type of photos that they're using, or create special icons to help brand their business further. In terms of like hashtags and content, there's a mix of long and short, which is good. They're using a good amount of hashtags. So overall, good and bad around. The next one we're looking at is Lakeview by Carmen's, 971 followers, 3.5% engagement rate. They have a really beautiful and consistent aesthetic, but they're inconsistent in posting. So if you're posting beautiful content once a week, once every 2 weeks, sporadically, it won't perform as well if you're consistent, whether it's 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or 5 days a week in the week. Having some kind of cadence and structure is definitely ideal and better in terms of algorithm and performance of your posts. And just naturally, the more you post, the more chances you have to increase that engagement and get eyes on your page more often. Moving on to the next one here, Century Barn Weddings and Events. 3.6K followers, 3.2% engagement rate. Bio is short yet descriptive, right? They do a good job here. They have everything linked out the way that they're supposed to. They have icons for their Instagram highlights. However, they're all the same. So although the intent was there, it's not as interesting or as unique as it could be. And then in terms of, like technicalities of hashtags and stuff, they are doing a good job, and they mix graphic posts with visual posts. So that's an example, like the hashtag your wedding that they post. It's a little bolder, I feel, than the way their brand is in their logo. However, having that balance between graphic content and photographic content is great. So good on them for doing that. And then the other thing that they had was the ability to book on Instagram directly, which not a lot of venues have. So are there any competitors that are top of mind for your business? Take a second to list a few out. These are not the ones you have to dive into, but the ones that you think top of mind, whether they're direct competitors or companies that are solving the same problem as you. Take a second to list a few out before we dive a little deeper, okay? Yolanda, I'll get to your question in a second. So Yolanda is asking, what should we be posting about if we provide a service that is just basically paperwork? I can't see an IG page being successful. So what do you mean by paperwork? Like, are you organizing information for other people? As a holistic nutritionist, we create a game plan for weight loss or detox, etc. Okay, but you are a holistic nutritionist, right? Okay, so you're not just doing paperwork, you're a holistic nutritionist, you're a specialist, right? You know about food, you know about what makes your body healthy, you know about what people need in order to sustain a happy, healthy, balanced lifestyle, right? So I'm sure that you have a lot of knowledge, and yeah, you might be putting together this custom game plan for someone. However, I'm sure that there's a lot of information that you repeat to your clients over and over that you could share, right? So thinking about the different ways that you could benefit people without having to create a custom plan for them. Like, what if you could reach them in a different way on social media? It's not just about the custom plan. It's about talking to people and explaining to them what it is that you do to encourage them to come and work with you and pay for your services, right? Does that help? Yes, amazing, great. Alrighty, so we'll jump. If anyone else has questions, I'll hit them up later, but I'm monitoring the chat here. So thanks, Yolanda. I'm sure that was helpful for a lot of people as well. Okay, how's everyone feeling so far? Good? Type it in the chat. Just let me know you're still alive. You're a little quiet today. Say hi. Oh, I see some waves. Okay, great. Hi, hi, hi. So now you're at a point where you've done a ton of research and you really understand your positioning as a brand and your position in the market amongst your competitors. Getting into a content strategy can be daunting, but like I mentioned earlier, don't be shy to reach out for any help in brainstorming ideas and really getting other people's opinions, right? Connecting with people who may be in your target market, like I said. At the end of the day, you always have the option to hire an expert as well, but I'm really trying to give you all of the tools in order for you to be able to do this yourself. All right, so the strategy we're going to get into today is Instagram, and we'll be focusing mainly on the organic strategy and touch on the paid strategy. So I'll explain both to you really quickly. Organic is free to post, which means you don't have to pay. It's what shows up in your profile grid. It can be discovered by anyone if your account is public, and it's super important for building brand loyalty, right? Having a presence for people to be able to refer back to. Paid are social media posts or content with a media budget behind them. So you're paying. So this can be a boosted post or a full-on targeted ad through Facebook Ads Manager. You can reach more people, be more specific as to who exactly you want to reach and what that's something that you can't really control with organic content, right? You can be very specific as to who you're talking to, whereas organic, anyone who lands on your page can see what you're sharing. And this makes paid content super important in growing your followers and potential clients, since it's very difficult to grow organically on Instagram anymore. Those days are over. So, I mean, you can have a page for brand awareness, but if your goal is to gain followers to eventually turn them into customers, you have to have a paid strategy in place. Organic just doesn't really work that way anymore. Unless you're like a miracle case on TikTok and your video goes viral, then power to you. All right, so some tips on how to gain followers. Content is key. We already spoke about this, being consistent, posting 5 to 7 times a week. Daily stories, if possible, is the goal. You want to invest in content creation. So if you recognize that you are not really strong in that area, hire someone to help you out, maybe once a month, once a quarter, whatever it may be, whatever you need in order to get that content to be consistent. And then utilize the motion and video content on a weekly basis. You want to be discoverable. So using those hashtags, the sweet spot is 12. It's no longer 30. Take note. Make sure you tag your location in your feed post as well as your stories. You can use hashtags and location tagging in both. Excuse me. Also leveraging partnerships, right? So combining, doing collaborations with influencers or other brands that are in a similar industry to you or that complement your business is a good way to grow with word of mouth. Build a community, which we also touched upon earlier, making sure that your engagement is high, that you're always communicating with your followers. You really want to establish yourself as a pillar of knowledge in your industry, and specifically for MP estates in the wedding and event space. And then invest in paid content, right? We already spoke about how important this is. You can find paid content that can fit your budget for as much or as little money as you want. At the end of the day, the more you invest, the more return you get. But also you have to make sure that you have a good strategy in place, because if you're just pushing a post with $500 and it's not done properly, it could be wasted. But if you do something really well with, let's say, $150, then you could be extremely successful. So making sure that there's a strategy, a rhyme and a reason behind everything that you're doing, especially with paid. I also wanted to go over a list of some organic trends that are good to know for 2022. Video content, we spoke about brands with purpose. So since 2020, people have really taken to social media to voice their opinions and take a stand for causes that are important to them. So whether that's, being eco-friendly or, inclusivity, things like that. Having a purpose is always great. Of course, you don't want to force anything upon your business if it's not natural, but if you have that as an aspect of your business, then it's something that you should definitely highlight and focus on. Education. So posting yourself as an expert in the industry, really sharing like tips and tricks, things like that. Carousel posts, multiple images per post instead of just one graphic. So this is something that's becoming increasingly more popular. And then community engagement in stories. So those are all of those kind of stickers where you can ask people questions or do polls, yes or no. Great to utilize that for engagement. So focusing back on MP Estates. This brand strategy was broken down into 3 organic content pillars, which has come through mainly in feed posts, but also through stories. 3 is a good number, but you could always have more. I would suggest just starting with 3, so not to overwhelm yourself. The way we broke it down here was personal, business, and events. Personal really focuses on Katie, her story, her day-to-day. Business focuses more on MP Estates, the brand, sharing important information, things that you want to communicate about the venue, and to also position the team as professionals and experts. And then events focuses on that magic that happens at the venue and during those events, right? So showcasing whether it's weddings, baby showers, corporate holiday parties, all that fun stuff. I've also listed the KPIs, which is key performance indicators. So you can take a look at that. We don't have to dive in too deep there. For you guys, just kind of defining those pillars will probably be good. But if you really wanted to get into it, focusing on key performance indicators and what kind of like your goal is and what you're tracking based on this type of content is good to look into eventually. Diving deeper into the personal content pillar. There are, 3 sections: the founder, personal stories, behind the scenes. They somewhat intertwine. So the founder talking about who is Katie, having her share information about herself, her story, her day-to-day, what inspired her to start the business, right? Some behind the scenes stuff, which she's already doing a great job of, how the venue was built and renovated. Also behind the scenes of event planning. So she's going to be super busy in the summer with multiple different events, and sharing that behind the scenes stuff is going to be really great and exciting for other people to see too, because they could almost imagine themselves being there. And we also included a sample post here for Katie to give her an idea of what this content could look like. So on the right here, it's someone working in construction saying, "We're not afraid to get messy. Our team has been busy working on transforming this beautiful old church into an elegant wedding and events venue. Eyes out for updates." Here are some examples of what personal content could look like. Very Katie focused, about the founder, behind the scenes as an entrepreneur and event planner. Things like, picking flowers for the event, and then, like we said, construction and renovations. Looking at the business pillar, this is where we're really talking about MP Estates. So promotions and packages for specific seasons, whether it's the summer season or off season. Maybe she has specific bundles that she wants to advertise, right, and promote. So making sure that she does that regularly, talking about availability. Let's say there's a last minute cancellation or there's special offerings in that off season. We want to make sure to highlight that. Industry expertise, so really positioning them as the experts in the wedding industry and the event space. And then testimonials, right? People want to confirm that people are having good experiences, that they want to go back, that they, really enjoyed themselves at empty estates. So sharing that is a great tool to get people to trust you as a business owner and the venue and the experience that they're going to have, or whatever your business is. Testimonials might be reflective of, let's say, like the sales that you're doing or something like that. So here are some examples of content from the business pillar and what they could look like. It's savable, shareable content, things like tips and tricks for event planning, reminding people of those bundles, testimonials, brand reputation. And these are not graphics that we created for Katie. They're things that we've found and pulled from other places as inspiration. I see that Olivier has a question here. What is the average cost of a paid IG campaign if you have an example? You could spend $50, you could spend $50,000 realistically. It depends on, I guess, your business, your budget, and your goals. An example that I have is we have a real estate client who spends about $1,200 a month and has been consistently gaining about 200 followers a month. So that's that. And then there's another client who really just pushes giveaways and stuff, and she'll boost posts with $50 here and there. And the giveaway post, because it's crossed with another brand, you're gaining followers from that other company, right? We spoke a little bit about that, and we'll talk a little more about collaborations in a bit. But that would be, she's gaining more like a boost of, sometimes I think it's kind of 60 followers or something when that happens, but it's not consistent, right? It's once every few months. So there's a big difference.
I have another question as well that was sent directly to me. Can you comment on podcasts and what is the best platform and how long should one be, and any tips?
Right. Well, I don't know too much about podcasts, to be really honest. So, there are tons of different platforms out there, so I can't necessarily attest to which one is best or not. But let's say if you are starting your own podcast, my thing, just as a brand in general, just be really authentic, be honest, be real. Make sure you have conversations with people that matter, that you care about, that you're not necessarily just talking to people to talk to people, but that you're also gaining value too, right? Because if you're interested, your followers and your listeners will also be interested. So that's kind of a high level view on podcasts, but I wish I could help you more with the platforms, but I'm sure Google will do a great job. And actually, Olivier is here. I don't know if he's the one who asked the question, but he has his own podcast. So Olivier Bousset, you can look him up. All right, read testimonials. If someone gives you a review on a platform such as Google, is it okay or legal to copy maybe a screenshot on your other social media platforms such as Facebook or IG? Yeah, you can screenshot. At the end of the day, Google's logo will be in it, so we know where it's from. But another thing that you can do is you can insert a little GIF or a graphic when you go and post into your story of the Google logo, right? And it's animated with the 5 stars, or you have, an app that creates a template for you. So if you want to make it branded and more personal instead of just screenshotting and reposting, then you could copy paste into a specific template that's branded for your business. So let's say your colors are pink and black, let's say the background is black and then you have a pink circle. And then in there you have the testimonial or maybe a snippet of the testimonial with 5 stars. And then in the caption, you have the full testimonial, right? We don't want to have too much text on a page. It's not great to do that on Instagram. So cutting down maybe the key words or the first sentence of a testimonial and then having the full thing in the caption is a great practice to have. Okay. Did we talk about this page? Venue highlights, local connection, setting the scene. Okay, no, we didn't. Great. So events pillar. This is the fun stuff, right? These are the events that are happening. We want Katie to, whether it's herself or her team or connecting with the people whose event it was, to get content from there, right? This is basically free content. You can, I mean, with their permission, of course, you can use their images on your page, which is incredible. And a lot of these event spaces do that. A lot of people are open to it as well, especially if they had a really good experience. So just making sure that you have that permission to share, specifically for Katie. This pillar is really focusing on setting that scene. Another thing that we suggested for her is connecting with other local businesses and showcasing local partners. So for example, if she partnered with a florist or a caterer or a bridal boutique for dresses, then that can be a time to shout them out and also cross promote, right? So if you have something that another company can post and vice versa, you're getting one content on 2 pages and then followers from both ends seeing both sides, which is great. So double the eyes. And the goal is to, like, you could partner with smaller local brands, but the goal is to eventually build it up and then partner with people who have a greater following than you. Because eventually, if you keep doing like in the same circle, you're all going to have the same followers. So really kind of branch out to make sure that you're constantly getting new followers. And so I'll let you kind of take a look at these content examples, some lifestyle shots, people interacting, dancing, maybe highlighting like the DJ or florist, some savable content as well, right? For people to create mood boards, things like that. Sarah's asking, a pillar of events makes sense for a wedding venue. What are some other pillars which would make sense for other types of businesses? Sarah, what's your business? The options are endless. And you know what? This actually will bring us here. So while you share a little bit more about what you do, I'll invite you all to also think about what pillars could be for you. Right. So we spoke about personal business and events specifically for this business, MP Estates. But what is it that you do or want to highlight about your business? So could you adopt some of these pillars? Did they maybe inspire you to think differently about your business? So take a couple of seconds to jot down any ideas or inspiration that may have sparked. All right. So Sarah, you're the one who is starting a plumbing business. So with a plumbing business, I mean, okay, let me think. I got to think up on the spot for you. Well, the first 2 could probably work for you, right? In terms of like personal and business. But then what's different about plumbing is that not a lot of people are familiar with it, right? So maybe instead of having business as like more of like a general second pillar, you talk more about like your expertise specifically. So maybe one of your pillars is about like 911, like emergency plumbing. And then the other pillar could be about like regular day-to-day things like installing dishwashers or whatever. I think that's a plumber's job. So kind of like breaking down what it is that you offer. And a good way, actually, a good exercise for everyone here, write a list of your services down, write a list of your services, write a list of your values, write a list of your story, right? Things that kind of like got you to where you are. And then when you have all of these ideas in front of you, it's going to be a lot easier to just categorize them. And so what you could do is kind of like, let's say you have 3 circles, right? And then all the words, just draw lines from the words to the circles. Like, okay, which bucket does this fit into? Or which ones kind of like sound like they could pair together and work together. And so the pillars are never the same for every single business. And I don't know enough about what makes your business unique, Sarah. So, if we had a chance to talk one-on-one, I would probably get a better idea of how we could define your business through pillars to really help you stand out amongst your competitors. I hope that helps. I know it's not like a direct answer, but gets you thinking. Now, story series. This is fun. Story series are fun. So these are more specific examples Instagram, like we said, has you have the option to a post, a story, or a reel. And these concepts and these ideas are specifically for stories. So my team and I at Nomad Creative came up with 6 different ideas for stories here for MP Estates. So the first one is this or that. And these are some elements that you may have seen and you may be able to repurpose for your business as well. So some of these are trends, and then some of these are specific for the business. So this or that, this is showing 2 different images, and people get to vote which one they like better. So for MP Estates, maybe it's like a white bouquet of flowers versus a colorful bouquet of flowers. Which one do you like better, this one or that one? And so people vote. It's just like fun to get people engaged and interact. Photo challenge. This is using a sticker called Show Me Yours. So with MP Estates, let's say, share a picture of your first kiss as a married couple. One person posts it out, and then anyone who sees that can click that sticker and repost. And then it eventually trickles and starts this whole trend. Ask MP Estates. So this is, again, utilizing those questions and poll tools. If anyone has any questions about MP Estates specifically, or if MP Estates wants to kind of like quiz or ask questions to get more information on their followers, this is a good place to do that. So let's say someone were to ask, how much does it cost per person for a Christmas party for 50 people? There'll be an opportunity for them to ask. And if we look at the cadences here, these are what we recommend. You guys can build out your own cadences, but for that last one, we suggested bi-weekly on Wednesdays 2 times a month, right? Some it could be weekly, bi-weekly. Going on to the next 3 here, magical transformation. So this kind of plays a lot on the fact that Katie is starting the business from a blank slate, right? She's renovating this gorgeous old church to something 10 times more beautiful. And so we thought this idea of showing a before and after with the snap of a finger could be cool. So showing the event space like naked as it is, and then having the finger kind of like come in frame, snap, come out, and then all of a sudden it's decorated and it's the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. And having this series, whether it's like every weekend or once a month, to really highlight the before and after of these events, creates this like magical transformation, which is always fun to see. A featured event is connecting with people who've been to the venue before, asking them about their favorite memories and experiences, and really kind of like telling that story. And then current favorites has to do with, let's say Katie found this very cool vintage gold dinnerware or rustic chairs that she wanted to highlight as a favorite. So these could be little like highlights and say, okay, this is my favorite. Where can you get it, or where can you rent it? Or if she's pushing it through her business, then you can get it with us, you know? So jumping into paid content pillars, there are 3 main pillars when it comes to paid content, which are awareness, consideration, and conversion. So with awareness, the goal is for people to learn about your brand for the first time. And then you want them to continue to engage, right? You want to engage these people with great content. You want to make them aware of who you are and what you do. In short, this pillar is pretty much focused on gaining new followers, but followers are not guaranteed sales, right? So this is where consideration comes into play. The objective of consideration is to get those new and existing followers to visit your website. Why? Because the end goal is to book, sell, register, or whatever you're wanting them to do. So let's say you've reached them and they are now aware of your brand. So now your goal is to get them to consider using your service or purchasing your product. And then conversion comes into play, which is the last pillar. You want to get your followers to follow through with that action you're asking them to do. And in this case, we want online bookings, right? We want people to book the venue. And so there's some examples here of what the ad format could look like. We don't have to get into it, but I think just like the concept of how those are broken down, usually it's best to hire someone to help with the paid stuff, especially if you're investing a little more, you want to make sure it's performing and doing a good job. But I did still want to just highlight these for your knowledge. All right. Collaboration. In the case of MP Estates, we provided 3 different guides as to how she could collaborate. We don't mention any specific like brands or influencers, but it's more generic as to who she could reach out to. And then, if ever we do work with her on a monthly basis, then we would go in and actually do the outreach, connect with the influencers, connect with the brands, and build those relationships and those brand deals. So the first one here, influencers and content. So if they have a specific product or vendor that they want to push, this is a chance to send over samples to influencers in exchange for beautiful content, and alternatively connecting with different influential photographers to attend events and take about, let's say, an hour's worth of content for them to use on the MP Estates social channels and do that cross promotion. The influencers and collaboration is reaching out to influencers to actually hold their events at MP Estates. So asking them to tag MP Estates on their social media, and for additional shout outs, maybe Katie can offer either a small discount or a freebie welcome basket to sweeten the deal, something like that. And then the last one would be brands and partnering with them. So connecting with other businesses that complement MP Estates. This really, it allows you to host like these giveaways. It increases visibilities. You're going to show up on other accounts specifically for MP Estates, but you can do this yourself as well, because they have followers that will likely resonate with your business. So for example, photographers in this case, bridal stores, caterers. We spoke about a lot of this. And so I want you guys to think of 3 businesses or influencers who would complement your brand nicely. You may not know any influencers off the top of your mind, maybe you do, but other businesses that might complement your brand. So for example, if you're a yoga studio, you can partner with a company that sells incense or yoga mats, or if you're a builder, you can partner with an interior designer, a furniture store. Think about this for your business, and we'll jump into the conclusion in just a second. Okay, so to conclude this strategy, we're going to summarize, right? So through a clear and consistent content strategy, MP Estates will position itself as a reliable, elevated, and inviting event space in Napanee, Ontario, and build an engaged social media following. Communicating values, event success stories, and personal behind-the-scenes content will build relationships and trust, turning followers into future clients. Now, my team and I at Nomad Creative always like to end the strategy decks with next steps to give our clients some real actionable things to do immediately after the call, right? This is not something that's so far-fetched, like you can go in and do this yourself. So these are probably some things that you could tackle as well once your strategy is complete. So we'll kind of go through the points. Creating content, right? We need something to post that is aligned with the pillars that you thought of. Creating a content calendar to plan out the posts. So having this all planned in advance, being organized, really kind of like saves you from having to worry about the day-to-day stuff. Researching popular hashtags, making sure that you're not just like using any 12 hashtags, but that there's some research and value behind them. Reaching out to any service providers or organized collaborations. And then, of course, engage with followers and like-minded accounts. And so I'll give you a second, an opportunity to create a next step checklist of your own. I'll give you a second to think of next steps here. And then I'll also kind of open up the floor to questions. And I want to give you guys enough time to think about them. So while you do that, I'm going to go through just some case studies of visual examples of brands that we've created content for and that we've managed their accounts for. So nothing you really have to like look up at, but if you want to, it's there for you. If not, take your time, write down some next steps, think about any questions. Yolanda, what do you mean by your question? Would you think more industry than for collabs? I'm not sure I understand. Nutritionist collab. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not too sure exactly what your offerings are, but I would think like what comes to mind is like, let's say maybe a health food store, maybe either some like an organic like product maybe that you use, or a brand that you really love, that you recommend your clients use, things like that. What tools or items or things do you use on yourself, on your clients? What do you recommend? And connect with those brands that offer those things, right? That's where I would see the collaboration happening there. And pop-up shops too. Things like that are great for your industry. You're welcome. Okay, so as those questions keep coming in, we'll just kind of dive through this really quick. Bud Sprout Bloom was a client of ours. We created their branding from A to Z. They came to us basically with an idea. And so we helped them with the name and then launched it until she was ready to kind of take over her socials on her own. So as you could see, the services is pretty much like full service with this client. She sold out of her first batch of product in 1 week. And so the product is affirmation cards for kids. We created custom illustrations and these beautiful positive affirmation cards. So for example, like I am authentic, I am strong, I am inviting, really beautiful, empowering cards. And so some of the content that we created for their social media can be seen here. The top holiday giveaway post, that's actually in collaboration. So that's an example of a collab. You see her box on the left, and Heart of a Hero, which is another company that's a coloring book for kids that she partnered with. Some examples of, the Instagram highlight icons that we created and some story graphics. Fidacity Realty is a cloud-based real estate agency. And they wanted to completely rebrand. As you can see, like the before and after is night and day. They were focused more on like the homes, but the agency itself is not, their focus is not to like sell homes, but instead to get brokers. Like that's how they make their money. So they changed the way that they were communicating, and they made their page much more graphic and much more friendly for the brokers specifically, and not for like the buyers and sellers of the house. So you can see that is reflected in the content here. The opening of different locations, highlighting the cloud campus environment, doing highlights of employees, the CEO. This is a real estate agency I briefly brought up earlier, Abby and Olivier. So you can see the difference between the before and after. Before, their content wasn't very clean. They had a lot of different types of graphics happening. They weren't attentive to the quality of the photos that they were posting either. Like they had some good content, but it was almost just like too much. So on the right, you can see how it's a lot cleaner. We introduced some graphic posts as well, which can be seen over here. Some custom content that we created for them in their feed and their story, which is gorgeous. I love this brand. Flush Bamboo, some of you might be into this and want to look into this after, but this is bamboo toilet paper. So we branded them from the beginning and started their socials from nothing. So there's no before and after, there's just a now. And these are some of the graphics that we were posting. We also did a photo shoot for them. So their feed is in combination with photography and graphics as well. Looking here, this is a CBD edibles company, and they recently expanded their product line into skincare as well. So this was more the edibles. It's called Psychedelicacy Inc. They're based in Montreal, and some shots of their products. And then another business here called Tally Nails Montreal. She was a small business, opened up her own boutique. Was a nail artist, so we did a photo shoot for her and some custom graphics as well. So I just wanted to kind of go over some other examples there of different industries. Hopefully it inspires you creatively on the type of content you could post and the different possibilities with the graphics. That's all I have for you guys today. I really hope that this was valuable, that you learned something. It's 11:30, so it's a little earlier than expected, but if you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer. If not, then I'll take it as a job well done. That's about it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Alyssa.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys. Yolanda, I'm happy I was helpful for you. Alexia, Abir, Olivier, you're very welcome. I'm glad you were here. Thank you for coming. I think we're good to wrap up, Brianna. I don't think we have any questions.
All right then.